What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. I waited an extra day to do this video. We're going to talk about the Marx Cards bankruptcy slash denying PSA returning the cards situation slash mess. This broke during the live stream, which was wild. Trying to figure this out on the fly. Lots of good comments from the chat, so I encourage, if you missed that live stream, go hop in and check that out. I think it probably broke about halfway through, give or take. I don't remember the exact timestamp, but someone in the comments was like, hey, did you see this? And I was like, no, I didn't realize an official ruling came down. And then that was pretty much the back half of the live stream. I was originally going to record a video that night to release the next day. And I said, let me hold off for a day, marinate on this, see if any other information comes out. And really nothing much else has came out about this. So where do we sit? Quick recap. Marx Cards, one of the largest PSA group submitters that there is, or was rather, had upwards of 50,000 cards at PSA. Did not have the money to pay for them when the bill came due, because he took that money and used it to pay himself and his family members an extremely large salary for running a card shop that he also opened, most likely with that money. Ran into a bunch of debt, this, that, and the other thing. So it all goes sideways. He then claims bankruptcy. That then changes the ball game on a lot of this stuff. PSA and Marx were working together, trying to get full lists, trying to figure out whose cards were where. According to pretty much everybody, Marx didn't exactly keep the best record books. Everything was done over IG DMs. The whole thing's messy. PSA wants to get the cards back in people's hands. They were going to eat the costs on a lot of this stuff, the man hours, etc., to get the cards back to where they needed to go. But once Marx claimed bankruptcy, the court stepped in and said, hey, PSA, hold on just a minute before you send that stuff back. And what everyone was waiting on was for this court order to say, yep, you're good, go ahead and send them back. Well, the court order came down and the judge said, not so fast, my friends. Don't send those cards back quite yet. You can see here, this is the email that collectors, still feels weird not saying collectors universe. I'm just going to say PSA. Here's the email that PSA sent out. The bankruptcy court denied their request and essentially told them, no, but you could go ahead and ask again on your own. So where does this leave us? More questions than answers, really. We still don't really know anything yet. Nothing's been decided permanently. The big thing that this does, and this sucks for everyone involved, and if you have cards tied up in this, this really sucks. It's going to make it longer for people to get their cards back. Whether, you know, once you start getting in the court motions and all this other nonsense, it's going to make this stuff go longer. And this is probably, I should have led with this. I am not a lawyer. I did not sleep at Holiday Inn Express last night. Anything involving law, I am not a legal expert. Only thing I know is what Lenny Briscoe and Jack McCoy taught me on Law and Order reruns. That's it. So keep that in mind. This is just all my opinion and nonsense when we're talking about this stuff. So the ruling came down. Cards can't move. And now we're kind of in a waiting game for those that have cards stuck there. There's a couple of reasons why this matters. One, if you have cards stuck there, it sucks because it's going to be longer for you to get them back. And these people have already paid to have these cards graded to Marx, who then just blew that money. So it really sucks for those people. The interesting angles here are, what if this keeps going down this path? Now, most people think, you know, this really shouldn't be heading this direction. They're clearly not Marx's property. He was an intermediary, the whole 9 yards, but legalese takes over and anything that makes sense goes out the window. They were in his possession, you know, possession 910, all that jazz. They were submitted to PSA via him. They're in his name on PSA's paperwork. Turns into a whole thing. So where this gets sticky is if we keep going down this path. Now, like I said, a lot of people believe this is just a slight delay into what will ultimately happen, which will be PSA will be allowed to return the cards. There will just be a delay in doing that. However, if it keeps going this general direction where the courts rule They are not allowed to return those cards. They are property of Marx because the cards were submitted to PSA under Marx's name. Thus, on paper, they are his, which would make them assets in a bankruptcy case, whole 9 yards. Now we're off to the races. Or as Paul Lesko, who I have up here, great hobby follow on Twitter. He is a lawyer. He does not work in bankruptcy, but any type of hobby litigation, he's usually tweeting about it / talking about it, and is a nice resource to follow if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And he said, was quoting some initial responses saying, stuff like this would be the nuclear option if the courts decided to go this way. And just the fact that this happened now, before the door was cracked open, now the door is open that this legitimately could go down this path where it is ruled this way. Why does that matter? Because this, and once again, I'm sure the lawyers in the comments down below will correct me, if it heads down this path, big if, huge if, but if it heads down this path, that would mean any group submitter that the cards are in their possession, and comment pointed this out last night, that this would not be restricted to California. Since it's a bankruptcy, that's the federal level. And once chat or comments can correct me if that's a wrong take to have, so it wouldn't necessarily matter that this just happened in California. But if another group submitter would go bankrupt or have legal issues, those cards would be considered assets of that group submitter if they were in their possession. So that opens up a whole can of worms for every single group submitter and every person using a group submitter. This is one of those situations where 99.9% of group submitters are probably really good people. And the 1 or the 0.1% in this case, it potentially could screw this whole thing up for everyone. So there's that aspect of this. Are people going to, we talked about this when this news initially broke. Are people going to look at group submitters the same way if this goes a certain way where, maybe they file bankruptcy for nothing that has to do with their group submission thing that they're doing? Maybe they do. Maybe there's another. I'm sure Marx, spoiler alert, I'm sure Marx Cards was not the only one doing shenanigans with the cash. We have no proof of that, but I'm sure he's not the only group submitter that was being dirty. So what if one of those other ones files bankruptcy? Now, in this case, PSA has the money to potentially make some of these problems go away. What if it was a smaller grading company that didn't? That didn't have 1.4 million. There has been some stuff floating around where they talk about PSA potentially just buying out the remaining assets of Marx and then essentially just cutting a check. Some of the stuff in Lesko's mentions here, we're talking about that this happens a lot in other industries where parts suppliers go out of business or claim bankruptcy, and the companies need the parts. They're tied up in a warehouse, so they just buy the company and pay off their debt to get the parts freed up that they need to produce whatever it is that they're producing. In this case, I believe that example was aerospace. So maybe something like that happens. Once again, not sure what the legal ramifications there are. So this opens a whole wide world door for group submitters as a whole. The other thing that this opens is, and once Lesko brought this up, not me, is what does that do for vaulting services? Because vaulting services, the cards are not in your possession. They are located in the vault. So if this precedent goes a certain way, what does that mean for cards being stored in a vault? We'll not name any particular names. There's plenty of them out there. But if one of the vault services went bankrupt, pick one. I don't care which one, just pick one. One of those goes bankrupt. What happens to the cards? The broad brush answer is, I don't know. Each individual vault service may have different fine print on that. And it may not matter. Who knows? Once judge starts making rulings, who the hell knows what could happen? But it just causes questions on basically any third party that has your cards in their possession. If things go sideways, what that could possibly mean. So what do we do about all this? Because we really don't know anything yet right now. I don't use a group submitter. I've always submitted myself. I've used a group submitter once. The experience was perfectly fine. I had 0 issues, sent my cards in, got my cards back. Everything was fine. Got the grades that I expected. It was all good. It was actually Card Collector 2. Everything else I've always set myself. I just never really had much of a need for a group submitter personally. I understand why people like to use them for the slight price discount. I always like to just deal with my cards myself. I'd rather pay a couple extra bucks per card and know that I am the only person touching them. No offense to the great ones out there. There's plenty of them. So at minimum, you should probably be at least looking at your group submitter a little more tightly, I guess. You make sure that they're doing everything on the up and up. And, even if they are, stuff happens in life. People have to claim bankruptcy. Some people don't plan on claiming bankruptcy. So, if you are using a group submitter, maybe you need to sit down and reevaluate that process. Does this make sense? Maybe you're just sending a bunch of low-end cheap stuff and it doesn't make a difference whether that stuff gets gobbled up or not. That's the key thing I think that you want to think about during all this. If I have my cards in a third party's possession and for some reason those cards legally disappear, though chances slim, how upset would you be? If it's a bunch of bull based prisms, you're probably like, you know what? It sucks. I'm out some cash, but it's not the end of the world. Where this gets scarier is the vault side of things. If your cards are stored in a vault and the vault runs into legal issues, bankruptcy, whatever, what happens to those cards then? Because in a case like that, if it's a vaulting service, now you're talking about high dollar, rare, expensive items that a creditor could look at and be like, hey, we could sell that for a lot of money and get some of this money back if it's a bankruptcy court case. And some of those things you might not want to lose out on, whether it's cash, the asset itself, maybe it's super rare and non-replaceable, who knows? And I'm not saying run out and go pull all your cards out of the vault, but I'm also not going to say you're an idiot for considering doing that either. This is going to affect how each person deals with this is going to be different. There's going to be people that are going to take this information and run and immediately pull stuff out of vaults, or at least reevaluate the whole situation. Some people are going to say, I'm not concerned about this, and that's fine. That's every individual person is going to have their own individual reactions to this, and that's what I want your big takeaway to be from this. Take this information, dig in, do some more research, and see how it affects you personally. If you have a bunch of cards sitting in a vault at minimum, and I do not currently have I shouldn't say I don't currently have a card sitting in a vault. I have some like really, really junk Goga Batances and some other nonsense in my Star Stock vault, but nothing worth more than 10 cents. And I don't want those cards back. They could keep them. But if I had cards in one of the large vaulting platforms, at minimum, I would be reaching out to them, my rep or whatever, if you have a rep, or reading the fine print on the agreement or having a lawyer look at it and just say, hey, if this happens, if you guys go bankrupt, what happens to my cards? If this legal situation happens, who actually controls / owns my cards? And maybe it's clearly spelled out in an agreement somewhere and all the bases are covered. Maybe you have a personal lawyer look at it and they agree with you, or they agree with what the company's saying, and you are fine. At minimum, I think you should at least be asking a couple questions. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to go pull all your cards out of your vault. I'm also not going to sit here and tell you to just completely ignore this, because I don't think you should ignore it. I think there's actionable items. There are reasonable, actionable items to take here based off of what we've seen so far. And once again, this could go the other way. The judge could come out, or the bankruptcy court, whatever, could come out and say, okay, do X, Y, and Z thing, and PSA, you are fine to return to the cards to Marx, or to Marx's customers. Cool, great, we're good. If it goes the other way, though, that's when things get a little dicey. Or the fact that this even got to this point, if PSA comes in and they're allowed to buy out Marx's assets and then free up the cards to send back that way, that alone would not, in my mind, I would still feel a little about this whole situation, because it was at least hanging out there that it potentially could go down this path. Now, maybe it doesn't end up going down there because PSA just writes a check if they can. I don't know how viable that option is. I really don't. But if that is an option where PSA could just write the check, I have a feeling they would just write the check and make this all go away at this point. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. More information coming on this whole situation, obviously. But I do think the big takeaway here should be, in my opinion, is take a step back and evaluate anyone that you are using as a third-party intermediary with your cards, whether that's a group submitter, a vaulting service, anything else that I'm not thinking of that's out there. Just take a look at it and say, hey, am I good here? You know what I mean? And then reevaluate the situation from there. Just ask some questions, do some due diligence. I think it's a smart play just to cover yourself in case this does go the other way. And who knows how long this could take. This could take another month. This could take multiple months. This could take years. This could take days. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. And that is the part that really sucks for the people that have cards locked up in this. Some people in the comments on the video, the live stream the other night, were saying that typically bankruptcy court moves much faster than your average, like criminal court system does. Bankruptcy tends to move fast because the creditors want their cash. So, and there could be appeals both ways. It could come out that the judge says, cool, PSA, send your cards back. And one of the creditors could probably step in, once again, not a lawyer, could step in and say, hold on a second, we'd like to appeal that decision. Or vice versa. The court could come out and say, PSA, you're not allowed to send your stuff back. And the court could, and the PSA could say, we want to appeal that decision. And that adds even more time to all this. So that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Really interesting situation here. Like I said, we kind of talked about this before, that this could really set a lot of wacky precedent for cards and the hobby and all that kind of stuff. So just be careful out there. Cover your bases. Do your research. Do your homework on who you're working with. That's all I got for you guys and girls. Peace.